So today in the shop, I had a super unique opportunity to show you folks the three different styles that I'm aware of Sprinter intakes on your OM 642 3.0 diesel Mercedes engine. So my name's Clay with the Clayway here in Muskegon, Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And today, like I said, we have an opportunity to examine three different styles of OM 642 intakes. And I'm going to show you the differences in them. And we'll see if we can figure out, can you use what? Where can you use it? Why is it when certain vehicles you can't buy the intakes for?
And some of them are easier to get than others.
And what happens? Several hundred people have tried to clean their intakes and were unsuccessful because they don't know some things about these intakes. They'll clean them, then a day later, the arms will lock up on them. They'll get them things all nice and shiny, new, looking like mine right here. Install the intakes immediately, and they'll go to start their van, and about 10 miles later, it'll go back into limp mode because they didn't understand exactly why these intakes lock up. These intakes lock up because the rod inside here collects a lot of carbon, and because these are ultrasonically welded plates, you can't just remove them and put them back together. It doesn't work like that, folks. Took me about 6 months to figure out, but I figured out how to clean these things and make them successfully last. I guess the point is, if you need yours cleaned, you better send them to me if you want it done right and you want them to last.
And if you've ever watched any of my Sprinter videos, you know that I do a lot of stuff for free. When you're helping me, you're helping lots of other people too.
But who knows? I've never had any fail, but it's possible. I've been a failure at different points in my life, so I can imagine where things that I do may fail someday. These intakes look really, really similar. When you start looking at them from right to left, they look very, very similar. And any one of them would fit on any 3.0 Blue Tech, non-Blue Tech engine. They're all the same color. They all function the same. They even use the same swirl motors on all three of them. And no matter what the application is, they all gum up. That happens because the EGR allows the carbon and everything else to build up on the inside of the intakes. Hopefully pretty soon for your off-road applications, I'm going to be able to delete that stuff. So you have no more DPF, no more EGR, no more locking swirl motors, better fuel economy. But for right now, I have a resistor trick you can check out. I'll put that down in the description.
If you're out on the road and she's staying in limp mode for less than $2, you won't be stuck.
And even though that's not a lifestyle and you shouldn't run it that way, and we want to keep the earth healthy, if you're running these on the road, you can take them off, send the intakes to me, I'll clean them. It's not free, helps the rest of humanity because I make free YouTube repair videos. And when you're helping me, I'm helping others. Okay, so this is our passenger side intake. This is where our thermostat is mounted. And as you can see, we have a little bit of an older style, a little bit of the normal style today, and just one that's clean. Looking at them, you're going to notice that your thermostat mounts here on these ones, but on here on these ones. These are all sitting flat on the floor. Another difference is where the sensor mounts. This intake has a cast spot for the sensor. And this intake has a bracket that's mounted to the intake. And they may look like they're in the same position, but they're not. This sensor's back a little bit further, whereas in this sensor's a little bit further forward. The plug-ins are different on the sensors as well. These intakes, not all of them have sensors, and that's why I say there's 3 to 4 different intakes. Technically speaking, the ones that don't have sensors just don't actually have a sensor installed in there. And when you don't have a sensor installed in there, the rails won't have these little tabs on them. A lot of people think that it's a good idea to change out these rails with aluminum ones. I personally don't think so. I want these to break before these break. So I don't like using these. I recommend against it. And I can repair these, but I can't often repair the knuckles that go on here. I can repair them, but it's not as good as the original factory ones, and it's a little bit more costly when you do that. You can tell that these rails look differently. These sensor locations are in different positions. There's actually 3 different versions of these. Well, 4 if you count the ones that don't have the sensors, but If they don't have the sensors, you could use any one of them. And we can see that our sensors are in the different locations. There's a right and a left. I'm not sure which the orientation is at this moment of each one of these, but they definitely go for one side or the other side. Even though you can fit these on no matter how you want to, you can put them on there. But if that sensor is not making contact with that, it's going to send your vehicle into limp mode. So be mindful of that when you're replacing these, that this sensor should land right in the center of the sensor here. This pickup, I should call it a pickup because it is a pickup, it's not actually a sensor. And if you use the wrong rail, that sensor, that pickup may work with that sensor, but I'm not certain of that. You want it right in the center of there, just like that. When you have these and you have a little bit of slop in there, that's quite a bit, to be honest with you. You want less than that. New arms, even if they're plastic, will have a lot less. Believe it or not, this is an acceptable amount of play in the new rails. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but there's definitely less on the new arms, because generally it's going to ride about there. So if you don't have the sensors on the rails, you don't really have to worry about replacing them because they're going to work. And even if they're slopped out a lot, it's not a big deal. These flaps are here so the engine can get more air into the intakes during turbo acceleration. Theoretically speaking, though, it's not even necessary to have these stupid flaps in here. They're only in here for emissions. And from what I understand, over in Europe, they don't even have these flaps. Here's the real difference in between these intakes is on the driver's side, which would be considered the left, is how they actually look on the end of them. This is generally the car version, meaning passenger vehicle, not a Sprinter van. It has the EGR mounted on the back, and it has ports here, and in the center of the intakes, there's going to be your cooler, which is your EGR cooler is going to go through the center. Whereas on your Sprinter vans, most of the time, the EGR cooler is on the passenger side cylinder head mounted near the exhaust manifold. On the Sprinter vans, instead of your EGR valve being mounted back there, it's going to be on the front over to your passenger side head. Now here's a 2008 Dodge Sprinter that looks very similar to that one. The exception is on the back of here, and I'm assuming for some European models, they have these cutouts that don't actually get used. Now, technically speaking, you could take this newer style intake and put it on the older style Dodge Sprinter van, but you would need the right and the left because the location of the coolant passage is different on them two. If you have this 2008, 2007 Dodge Sprinter 3.0 intake that has these holes back here, but they're not used for anything, you could switch it with the newer one. You'd cut the sensor end off, this one right here, and splice it onto this sensor right here. These sensors send 5 volts. They have a 5 volt reference, which meaning that 5 volts go to it. 5 volts reference comes back from it, meaning if it's on or off, if the sensor is switching on or off, and 1 ground. So it should be able to match up, and you could try a couple different configurations. I'm sure eventually you would get it. That'll make it a lot cheaper because these are not as available as this style right here, which is like the one that goes on the Jeep, GLs and stuff like that. And this style is the most common style that they use nowadays, so these are really easy to get. My cleaning's a lot cheaper than buying these, but only by about half price. If you got baller dollars, you can buy brand new ones. This is what they look like before they're cleaned. Yuck. Yum. I hope that was inspiring and insightful for you folks out there. It doesn't make a difference to me if you send them to me or not. I'll still help you no matter what. You can reach out to me on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook Messenger. I answer all the questions I possibly can for absolutely free. I can't help you with that baby mama drama, but I may be able to help you with your whip. Remember, don't be the next to them. Be the absolute first of you. And I swear to you, if anyone else can do it, you can do it too. God bless and have the best of days.